There is a moment that happens before you click on anything, before your thumb moves, before the algorithm suggests, before the title even registers consciously. There is a flicker. Something in you shifts. Not your attention. Something deeper than attention. Something behind your eyes recognizes a signal that your conscious mind has not yet processed, and you follow it. You follow it the way an animal follows a scent on the wind, not because it understands the chemistry of olfaction, but because something older than understanding is pulling it forward. You followed that flicker to get here. And what I want you to consider right now, before we go any further, is that the flicker itself is the evidence, not evidence that you are special in some flattering, comfortable way. Evidence that a part of your mind is already operating in a dimension you have not been taught to recognize. Most people spend their entire lives navigating 3 dimensions: length, width, depth, forward and backward, left and right, up and down. They move through space and they experience time as something that happens to them, a river carrying them from birth toward death with no say in the current. They react, they repeat. They remain stuck in patterns they can describe but cannot exit. And the reason they cannot exit is not a lack of willpower or discipline or knowledge. It is that they are trying to solve a 4-dimensional problem with 3-dimensional tools. They are trying to navigate a landscape they cannot see with a map that does not include the territory they are actually lost in. The 4th dimension is not a metaphor. It is not a poetic way of saying, think bigger or be more spiritual. In physics, the 4th dimension has a precise identity. It is time. But not time the way you have been taught to experience it. Not the ticking clock, not the calendar, not the deadline breathing down your neck. Time as a dimension means something specific and radical. It means that just as you can move freely in the 3 spatial dimensions, walking north or south, climbing a ladder or descending stairs, stepping left or stepping right, there exists a dimension in which past, present, and future coexist. Not sequentially, simultaneously, the way the entire length of a road exists, even when you are standing on only one point of it. In 1908, the mathematician Hermann Minkowski presented a paper that quietly restructured reality. He had been Einstein's teacher, and he took the young physicist's special relativity and reframed it in a way that Einstein himself initially resisted. Minkowski proposed that space and time are not separate things. They are a single 4-dimensional fabric he called space-time. In Minkowski's framework, your entire life, every moment you have lived and every moment you will live, exists as a world line. A continuous curve stretching through 4-dimensional space-time. Your birth is not gone. Your death is not yet to come. Both are coordinates on a structure that already exists in its entirety, the way every city on a map exists simultaneously, even though you can only visit one at a time. This was not philosophy. This was mathematics. And Einstein, after initially dismissing Minkowski's geometric interpretation, eventually adopted it as the foundation of general relativity. The block universe, as physicists came to call it, is not a fringe idea. It is the standard geometric interpretation of relativity that has survived over a century of experimental confirmation. Every GPS satellite orbiting this planet right now has its clocks adjusted for relativistic time dilation, a correction that only makes sense if time is genuinely a dimension woven into the geometry of space, not an illusion, not a metaphor, but a structural feature of reality as real as height or width. So here is what begins to crack open when you sit with this. If your entire world line already exists, if the future is not a blank page but a coordinate you have not yet reached from your current perceptual position, then what exactly is happening when you feel pulled towards something? When you sense a direction before you can justify it logically? When a decision feels inevitable before you make it? What is happening when you find a video like this and something in you says, yes, this, now? There is a concept in physics called retrocausality, and it is not as exotic as it sounds. It refers to the possibility that future states can influence present ones. That causation does not only flow from past to future, but can, under specific conditions, flow backward. The idea has been explored seriously by physicists like Hugh Price at Cambridge and Yakir Aharonov, whose two-state vector formalism in quantum mechanics describes particles as being influenced by both their initial conditions and their final conditions simultaneously. In Aharonov's framework, a quantum system is not fully described by its past alone. You need the future boundary condition too. The particle, in a sense, knows where it is going to end up, and this knowledge shapes its behavior in the present. This is not mysticism dressed in equations. This is peer-reviewed physics published in journals and debated at conferences. And while the interpretation remains contested, the experimental results that motivate it are not. The weak measurement experiments conducted by Aharonov and his colleagues have been replicated. They show measurable present-tense effects that only make sense if the future measurement is somehow participating in the present state. Now hold that. Hold the block universe. Hold retrocausality. And ask yourself a question that no physics textbook will ask you, but that your own experience has been asking you for years. What if the moments in your life when you felt inexplicably drawn towards something, when you made a choice that defied logic but turned out to be exactly right, when you walked into a room or opened a book or met a person and felt the shock of recognition, what if those moments were not random? What if they were the felt experience of your world line's geometry? The subjective sensation of a future coordinate exerting influence on your present position? This is what it means to begin operating in the fourth dimension. Not levitating, not bending spoons, not escaping physical reality. It means becoming conscious of a dimension you have been moving through your entire life without knowing it. The way a fish does not know it is in water until something lifts it briefly into the air. And here is where this gets specific enough to change how you move through the next 24 hours. Because there is a difference between understanding this intellectually and inhabiting it. The intellectual understanding is three-dimensional. You hear the idea, you file it, you move on. The inhabited understanding is four-dimensional. It changes the texture of your present moment because you begin to feel the depth of now. The way now is not a thin razor edge between past and future, but a thick, rich, multi-dimensional space that contains information from both directions. If something in you is already resonating with this, if you can feel the shift even slightly, take a moment right now to hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. That small action aligns you with more of this content reaching you exactly when your world line is ready for it. Now let us continue. There was a period, years ago, when everything in life felt like wading through wet concrete. Every action required enormous effort. Every decision felt arbitrary. The future seemed like a hallway with all the doors closed. And the strangest part was that nothing was technically wrong. The external circumstances were adequate. The health was fine. The relationships were functional. But there was a flatness to everything, a two-dimensionality, as if life had lost a dimension and nobody had mentioned it. What was actually happening, though it took a long time to understand, was a collapse of temporal depth. Consciousness had contracted into a single thin slice of now, disconnected from the larger pattern. Like looking at a single frame of a film and trying to understand the story. The frame contains real information, but without the frames before and after it, it is meaningless. The flatness was not depression in the clinical sense. It was a perceptual collapse, a failure to access the dimension that gives the present its meaning. The recovery did not come from changing circumstances. It came from a specific shift in how attention was deployed. Instead of attending only to what was immediately in front of awareness, there was a deliberate practice of attending to what was pulling. Not pushing. Pulling. The subtle sense of direction that exists before you can articulate a reason for it. The quiet tug that says, go here, not there. Read this, not that. Speak now, not later. Wait, not yet. This pull is the fourth dimension making itself felt in the third. It is temporal depth registering in a consciousness that has been trained to ignore it. Let me ground this in something you can verify in the next 60 seconds. Think of a decision you made recently that turned out well. Not a calculated decision where you weighed pros and cons and selected the optimal choice. A decision that felt more like a recognition than a calculation. You did not figure it out. You felt it. You knew in some way you could not defend logically that this was the move to make. And afterward, when it worked out, you probably called it intuition or luck or coincidence. Now think about what was actually happening in that moment. Your conscious, three-dimensional mind, the one that processes sequentially, that reasons from past to present to future in a straight line. That mind did not produce the answer. Something else did, something that seemed to have access to information your sequential mind did not possess. Information about how things were going to unfold. Information from a direction that linear thinking cannot reach. This is not magical thinking. This is what it feels like from the inside, when consciousness brushes against its own four-dimensional nature. The physicist would call it a sensitivity to boundary conditions. The contemplative would call it listening to the deeper current. The language differs. The phenomenon is the same. A part of you is not confined to the present moment as your thinking mind defines it. If you've been doing everything right and reality still hasn't shifted, this is the one thing nobody has told you. You meditate, you visualize, you affirm every single morning, and still, somehow, the life you're calling in stays just out of reach. It is not your effort. It is not your mindset. There is something underneath all of it, quietly running the show. I am hosting a free live transmission where I walk you through exactly what that is and how to finally shift it at the root. The link to register is in the description below. Save your seat. The moment you see this, you will understand why you could not see it before. A part of you has access to the larger shape of your worldline, and that part communicates not in words or logic, but in feeling, in pull, in the quiet certainty that precedes understanding. I want to pause here and ask you something. When was the last time you felt that pull, that quiet knowing that preceded logic? Drop it in the comments below. Not the outcome, but what the pull itself felt like. Because naming it is part of recognizing it, and recognition is the first phase of everything we are exploring here. The question is not whether this capacity exists. You have already experienced it. The question is why it is so intermittent, why it flickers on and off, why some days you feel deeply connected to this larger intelligence, and other days you feel like you are stumbling through fog, making choices by committee with the noisiest parts of your mind. The answer has to do with something that quantum mechanics reveals about the relationship between observation and reality, but not in the way it is usually presented. The observer effect, as it is popularly described, says that observing a quantum system changes it. This is true but incomplete. What actually happens in the measurement problem is more nuanced and more relevant to what we are exploring here. In quantum mechanics, before measurement, a particle exists in a superposition of states. It is not in one position or another. It is described by a wave function that encodes the probability of finding it in various positions. The wave function is not a statement of ignorance about where the particle really is. According to the standard interpretation, the wave function is the most complete description of reality available. The particle genuinely does not have a definite position until it is measured. Now here's the part that matters for understanding your fourth-dimensional mind. The wave function does not collapse because a pair of human eyes looks at it. It collapses because an interaction occurs that forces the system to resolve into a definite state. The key variable is not consciousness in the mystical sense. It is the nature of the interaction between the system and its environment. This process is called decoherence, and it describes how quantum superpositions dissolve into classical, definite states through interaction with the surrounding environment. But here is what decoherence reveals that is genuinely profound, even without any mystical addition. The definiteness of reality is not a given. It is produced. The solid, fixed, this or that quality of the world you experience is not a property of the world itself. It is the result of an ongoing process of resolution, a continuous collapse from possibility into actuality that is happening at every scale, at every moment, in every interaction. And you are part of that process, not as a magical observer who creates reality by thinking about it, but as a participant in the ongoing resolution of possibility into actuality. Every perception you have, every attention you direct, every choice you make is an interaction that resolves some portion of the possible into the actual. You are not watching reality from outside. You are one of the processes by which reality becomes definite. This is where the fourth-dimensional mind becomes operational rather than theoretical. Because if the present moment is a point of resolution, a place where possibility collapses into actuality, then the quality of your participation in that collapse matters. The way you attend to the present moment shapes what the present moment becomes. Think about what happens when you are anxious. Anxiety is a very specific temporal distortion. It is the mind projecting into a future that has not yet resolved and treating that projection as if it were already actual. The body responds to the projection with the same chemistry it would use for a real threat. Cortisol floods the bloodstream. The heart rate increases. The muscles tense. The perceptual field narrows to threat-relevant information. And here is the critical part. This narrowing of perception changes what you can see in the present. It filters out information that does not match the threat narrative. It makes you literally blind to possibilities that exist in your environment, but do not conform to the anxious projection. Anxiety, in this framework, is a premature collapse of the wave function. It is consciousness forcing a resolution before the natural resolution point, selecting one possible future, usually the worst one, and treating it as definite. The fourth dimensional mind does the opposite. It holds the superposition. It allows multiple possible futures to coexist without forcing a premature resolution. It remains in the space of possibility long enough for the actual resolution to emerge from the deeper pattern rather than from the frightened projection. This is not passive. It is not sitting around waiting for the universe to sort things out. That mistake, the mistake of confusing openness with passivity, is precisely what the Hermetic tradition warned about when it described the false sage. The person who learns that reality is mental, that laws operate on multiple levels, that the material world is not as solid as it appears, and concludes from this that effort is unnecessary, that consequences do not apply, that the rules of the game can be ignored because the game is a dream. That person, the tradition says plainly, is broken against the rocks, not because the insight was wrong. The insight was correct. Reality is mental in its fundamental nature. The error was in what was done with the insight. The true sage, as the tradition describes, knows the same truth but applies it differently. Instead of ignoring the laws of the lower plane, the sage discovers higher laws that can be applied within the lower plane to achieve results that seem impossible to those who know only the lower laws. The airplane does not deny gravity. It applies aerodynamic principles that allow it to operate above gravity's most obvious effects, while never pretending gravity does not exist. The pilot who ignores gravity crashes. The pilot who understands gravity and also understands lift, thrust, and drag can fly. Your fourth dimensional mind works the same way. It does not exempt you from three-dimensional reality. It gives you access to a higher order set of principles that allow you to operate within three-dimensional reality with capacities that three-dimensional thinking cannot produce. The capacity to sense direction before evidence. The capacity to hold uncertainty without collapsing into premature resolution. The capacity to recognize patterns that only become visible when you add the temporal dimension to your perception. And this is where we can get specific about what unlocking actually means in practice, because it is not a single event. It is not a door that swings open and stays open. It is more like a muscle that has always existed but has been atrophied by disuse. And the process of reactivation follows a specific sequence that I want to walk through carefully. The first phase is recognition. This is where you are right now, whether you realize it or not. Recognition is the moment when you stop dismissing the signals. The pull you feel toward certain ideas, certain people, certain directions. The strange sense of timing that occasionally surfaces in your life, where things align in ways that sequential logic cannot explain. The dreams that contain information you did not know you had. The sudden knowing that precedes understanding. Recognition is not creating these experiences. They have been happening your entire life. Recognition is simply the moment you stop explaining them away and start paying attention to what they might actually be. Most people spend enormous energy explaining away their four-dimensional perceptions. They call them coincidence, wishful thinking, confirmation bias, luck. And these explanations are not always wrong. Sometimes a coincidence is just a coincidence. But the blanket dismissal of every non-linear perception is itself a bias toward the three-dimensional model of reality that your culture installed in you before you were old enough to question it. Recognition is the willingness to question that installation, not to abandon critical thinking, but to expand what you are willing to think critically about. The second phase is disidentification from the narrative mind. This is harder than recognition and more important. Your narrative mind is the part of you that constructs a continuous story about who you are, what is happening, and what is going to happen next. It is the voice in your head that never stops talking, and it operates almost exclusively in 3 dimensions. It takes the raw data of experience and flattens it into a linear story. This happened, then this happened, then this will probably happen. The narrative mind is not your enemy. It is a tool, and a useful one. But it is a 3-dimensional tool, and when you mistake it for the totality of your consciousness, you lose access to the 4th-dimensional perceptions that operate underneath it. The signal from the deeper pattern is quiet. The narrative mind is loud. When the loud voice is mistaken for the only voice, the quiet signal is drowned. Disidentification does not mean silencing the narrative mind. It means recognizing that you are not the narrative. You are the awareness in which the narrative appears. This distinction, which sounds abstract until you experience it directly, is the hinge on which the entire process turns. Because the awareness that witnesses the narrative is not confined to the narrative's timeline. The narrative moves from past to future in a straight line. The awareness that watches it does not move at all. It is the space in which movement occurs. And that space, that witnessing awareness, is your point of access to the 4th dimension. This is not a belief to adopt. It is an experiment to conduct. And I want to offer you the experiment right now, not later, not after more explanation, but now, because the understanding we are building is not the kind that accumulates through information. It is the kind that opens through direct experience. Close your eyes for a moment if you can. If you are driving or walking, keep them open, but soften your focus. Now notice that you are thinking. Do not try to stop thinking. Just notice that thoughts are occurring. See if you can observe a thought the way you would observe a bird crossing a window. It appears. It moves. It disappears. You did not create it deliberately. You did not invite it. It simply arose. Now notice what is doing the noticing. The thought appeared in something. It moved through something. It disappeared from something. What is that something? It is not another thought, because you can observe that something without thinking about it. It is not an emotion, because emotions also arise and pass within it. It is the space of awareness itself. And if you stay with this for even 10 seconds, you will notice something peculiar. This awareness does not have a location in time. The thought had a beginning and an end. The awareness in which the thought appeared did not begin when the thought began and did not end when the thought ended. It was there before the thought, during the thought, and after the thought. It is always there. It is always here. It does not move through time. Time moves through it. That is your 4th-dimensional mind. Not a concept, not a theory. The felt reality of awareness that is not bound by the sequential timeline your narrative mind constructs. And you just accessed it. Not through years of meditation or spiritual practice, although those deepen and stabilize the access. You accessed it by shifting your attention from the content of consciousness to the space of consciousness, from the figure to the ground, from the movie to the screen. If you just tried that experiment, even briefly, I am curious what you noticed. Tell me in the comments what arose when you shifted from the thought to the awareness behind the thought. Was it stillness? Expansion? Something you cannot quite put into words? Share it, because your description might be the exact thing someone else needs to hear to recognize their own experience. The third phase is learning to operate from this space rather than merely visiting it. This is where most seekers stall, and it is where the distinction between the false sage and the true sage becomes critical. The false sage visits this space, has a genuine experience of timeless awareness, and then tries to live as if the three-dimensional world no longer applies. He has seen the screen behind the movie and concludes that the movie is irrelevant. But he is still in the movie. His body still needs food. His relationships still require attention. His choices still have consequences. Denying this does not elevate him. It breaks him. The true sage visits the same space and returns to the three-dimensional world with something new. Not an exemption from the rules, but an expanded toolkit for operating within them. The fourth-dimensional mind does not replace the three-dimensional mind. It includes it and adds a capacity that the three-dimensional mind alone cannot produce. The capacity to perceive the larger pattern within which the immediate situation is embedded. This is what changes when the fourth-dimensional mind comes online. You stop making decisions based solely on the visible evidence in the present moment and start making decisions that account for the trajectory. Not through prediction, which is a three-dimensional attempt to extend the past into the future, through perception, through the direct sensing of the larger shape that the present moment is part of. Consider how different this is from the way most people navigate their lives. Most decision-making is reactive. Something happens, you respond. The stimulus determines the response. This is billiard ball causation, purely three-dimensional. Event A strikes event B moves in a predictable direction. Your life, in this mode, is a series of collisions. You are bounced from one reaction to the next, and the trajectory feels random because you can only see the ball that just hit you, not the larger geometry of the table. Fourth-dimensional decision-making is different. It does not ignore the ball that just hit you. It perceives the ball within the context of the entire table. It senses not just the immediate impact, but the trajectory that led to it, and the trajectories that will follow from it. And this sensing is not calculation. You cannot calculate your way into fourth-dimensional perception any more than you can calculate your way into seeing color. It is a mode of perception that opens when the conditions are right. And the primary condition is the one we just practiced. The shift from identification with the narrative to resting in the awareness that holds the narrative. There is a phenomenon in physics called phase space, and it offers a precise analogy for what we are describing. In classical mechanics, the state of a system at any given moment is represented by a single point in phase space, a mathematical space that encodes all the positions and momenta of every particle in the system. A single point tells you where the system is right now. But the power of phase space is that it also contains every possible state the system could occupy. The entire landscape of possibility is mapped, and when you can see the landscape, not just the point, you can perceive trajectories that are invisible from the point alone. Your three-dimensional mind is the point. Your fourth-dimensional mind is the landscape. And the shift from point to landscape is not a mystical achievement reserved for the enlightened. It is a perceptual capacity that activates when you stop collapsing your awareness into the content of the present moment and allow it to expand into the space that holds the present moment. If this shift from point to landscape is resonating, there is something deeper I want to share. Have you spent years chasing manifestation, visualizing, affirming, raising your vibration, only to watch the same patterns repeat? Every traditional method assumes the same thing, that you are separate from what you want. That separation was never real. You were chasing a signal you were already broadcasting. Beyond the frequencies, a quantum guide to consciousness mastery walks through all 9 frequencies, from the dense transmissions trapping you through the ascending currents to the master frequencies where consciousness becomes the field. Every method you tried sent a signal outward. This one tunes the signal you already are. Every day you delay, your nervous system broadcasts the same old signal, and breaking free gets harder. So move on it tonight. The link is in the pinned comment below. Now let us return to the 4th phase of this awakening. The 4th phase is integration, and this is where the transformation becomes visible in your actual life. Integration means that the 4th dimensional perception is no longer something you access only in meditation or in quiet moments of reflection. It begins to operate in real time, in the middle of conversations, in the heat of decisions, in the chaos of daily life. The awareness that is not bound by the sequential timeline becomes a constant background, like peripheral vision. You do not stare at it directly. You do not need to. It is simply there, informing your perception, expanding your field, giving you access to information that the narrative mind alone cannot reach. This is when people around you start noticing something different, though they usually cannot name what it is. They say you seem calmer. They say you seem to know things you should not know. They say your timing is uncanny. What they are observing is the effect of a mind that is no longer confined to the thin slice of now that 3-dimensional consciousness occupies. You are drawing on a wider bandwidth of temporal information, and it shows in your choices, your responses, your capacity to remain steady when everything around you is turbulent. But I want to be honest about something here, because honesty is more useful than inspiration. Integration is not linear. It is not a smooth ascent from 3-dimensional to 4-dimensional consciousness. It is more like learning to breathe underwater. You can do it for a while, and then something startles you, and you gasp and swallow water, and you are back on the surface, coughing. The old patterns of reactive, narrative-driven, 3-dimensional consciousness are deeply grooved. They have been your operating system for decades. They do not disappear because you had an insight. They reassert themselves, sometimes violently, especially when you are tired or stressed or afraid. The practice is not to prevent the regression. The practice is to notice it sooner each time and to return to the wider awareness with less drama. The gap between losing the 4th-dimensional perception and recovering it gets shorter. The recovery gets smoother, and over time the wider awareness becomes the default rather than the exception, not because you achieved something, but because you stopped doing the thing that was blocking it. The blocking was the effortful identification with the narrative. The wider awareness was always there. You were just standing on it without looking down. There is one more element I want to develop here, because it addresses something you may have felt but never had language for. It is the reason the title of this video uses the word chosen, and it is the reason that word is not hyperbole. In a block universe where your entire worldline already exists as a 4-dimensional structure, the concept of finding something takes on a different meaning. In three-dimensional thinking, finding is accidental. You stumble across something by chance. The universe is random, events are disconnected, and any meaning you extract is meaning you projected onto meaningless coincidence. In four-dimensional thinking, finding is geometric. You arrived at this point on your world line because the shape of your world line passes through this point. The video exists at a coordinate. You exist at a coordinate. Your world lines intersect. This is not destiny in the fatalistic sense, where your choices do not matter. It is structure. The same way a river does not flow uphill, not because it is forbidden, but because the geometry of the landscape determines the direction of flow. Your world line flows through certain coordinates because the geometry of your consciousness determines the direction of your attention. And here is the part that is not comfortable but is true. Not everyone's world line passes through this coordinate. Not everyone will encounter this information at this moment in their trajectory. The people who scroll past this video are not inferior or unworthy. Their world lines simply pass through different coordinates. They will encounter what they need to encounter at the coordinates their world lines pass through. But you are here. Your world line passes through this point. And the fact that it does tells you something about the shape of your trajectory that you may not have recognized yet. It tells you that your world line is curving toward greater temporal depth, toward a mode of consciousness that includes the fourth dimension rather than being confined to three. The pull you felt, the flicker of recognition that preceded your click, was the felt sense of this curvature. Your future self, the version of you that has already integrated the fourth dimensional perception, is not separate from you. In a block universe, that version already exists, and the influence flows both ways. Just as your past shaped your present, your future shapes your present. The pull toward deeper understanding is not a wish. It is a signal from a coordinate on your world line that you have not yet reached from your current perceptual position, but that is already exerting its influence on where you are now. This is what Aharonov's two-state vector formalism looks like from the inside. You are being shaped by both your initial conditions and your final conditions. Both your past and your future are participating in who you are at this moment. And the moment you become conscious of this, the moment you stop treating the future as a blank page and start treating it as a dimension you can sense, everything about how you navigate the present changes. You stop forcing. You start aligning. You stop pushing toward outcomes and start feeling for the current that is already flowing toward the outcome that matches the shape of your world line. This is not passivity. The river is not passive. It moves with enormous power, but it does not fight the landscape. It reads the landscape and follows the path of deepest alignment. That is what fourth-dimensional navigation feels like, effortful. In the way that swimming with a current is effortful, you still have to swim, but qualitatively different from swimming against it. I want to offer you a practice now, something concrete you can carry out of this video and into the next hour of your life, because understanding without practice is the three-dimensional version of this teaching. The four-dimensional version includes the body. Find a moment today. It does not need to be long. 3 minutes is enough when you can sit without external demands. Close your eyes. Bring your attention to the center of your chest, not the heart organ, but the space behind the sternum where emotional resonance tends to register. Breathe into that space, and then ask, without trying to answer, without constructing a response, simply ask, what is pulling me? Not what do I want? Not what should I do, what is pulling me. And then listen. Not with your ears, not with your thinking mind. Listen with the space itself. Let the space receive whatever arises, image, word, feeling, direction, or nothing at all. Do not judge what comes. Do not analyze it. Just notice it. What you are doing in this practice is turning your attention from the push of the past to the pull of the future. You are reorienting your perceptual apparatus from the three-dimensional mode, where causation flows only from past to present, to the four-dimensional mode, where causation flows from both directions. You are listening for the signal from the coordinate on your worldline that you have not yet reached. The first few times you do this, you may hear nothing. That is normal. The channel has been static for a long time. The signal is there, but your receiver needs to be recalibrated. Keep doing it. Not with desperation, not with the anxious energy of someone trying to make something happen, but with the patient attention of someone tuning a radio, turning the dial slowly, listening for the moment when the static resolves into signal. Over days and weeks, the signal gets clearer. You start to notice the pull not just in meditation, but in daily life. You feel it in conversations, in decisions, in the subtle sense of rightness or wrongness that accompanies your choices. You begin to trust it, not blindly, not by abandoning your rational mind, but by giving it equal weight with your rational mind. Two sources of information instead of one. Two dimensions of causation instead of one. A richer, deeper, more complete picture of the reality you are navigating. And here is what happens when you operate this way consistently. When the fourth dimensional mind is not a peak experience, but a baseline. The synchronicities increase. Not because the universe is rewarding you for being spiritual, because you are perceiving connections that were always there but that three-dimensional consciousness could not detect. The meaningful coincidences, the perfect timing, the right person appearing at the right moment. These are not being created by your expanded awareness. They are being revealed by it. They were always part of the pattern. You just could not see the pattern because you were looking at it from too few dimensions. Imagine looking at a three-dimensional object, say a spiral staircase from directly above. From that angle, it looks like a circle. You see the shape repeating, going around and around, and it seems like you are going nowhere. You are stuck in a loop. But the moment you shift your perspective and look at the staircase from the side, you see that it is not a circle at all. It is a helix. Every revolution is higher than the last. You were ascending the entire time. You just could not see the ascent from the angle you were viewing it. That shift in viewing angle is the shift from three-dimensional to four-dimensional consciousness. The patterns of your life that seemed like repetition, the same problems recurring, the same dynamics replaying, the same lessons presenting themselves again and again. Those patterns are not circles. They are helical. Each revolution is at a different level. But you can only see the difference in level when you add the fourth dimension to your perception. Without it, you see a circle and you despair. With it, you see a helix and you understand. You were not going in circles, you were spiraling upward. And the fact that you could not see the upward movement was not evidence that it was not happening. It was evidence that you were viewing your own trajectory from too few dimensions. This is why the video found you now and not a year ago, not 5 years ago. A year ago, you were on a different point of the helix. The information would have landed differently, or not at all. You needed to complete certain revolutions before this particular coordinate became accessible. Not because someone was withholding it from you, but because the geometry of understanding has a shape, and you cannot stand on a step you have not yet spiraled up to. But you are here now, on this step, at this coordinate, and the very fact that the ideas in this video feel like recognition rather than novelty, that they feel like remembering rather than learning, is the signature of the fourth-dimensional mind activating. You are not acquiring new information. You are becoming conscious of information that was already operating in you, beneath the threshold of your narrative awareness, shaping your choices and your trajectory from a dimension you had not yet learned to perceive. The ancient traditions had different names for this. The Vedantic tradition called it the witness, the Sakshi, the unchanging awareness that observes the changing contents of experience without being altered by them. The Taoist tradition called it Wu Wei, not non-action, but action that arises from alignment with the deeper current, rather than from the effortful pushing of the isolated self. The Hermetic tradition called it the mental plane, the level of reality where thought and form are not yet separated, where the pattern exists before the manifestation. Different languages, different cultures, different centuries, the same recognition. There is a mode of consciousness that transcends the linear, sequential, three-dimensional mind, and when it activates, the relationship between the individual and reality fundamentally changes. Not because reality changes, because the individual's capacity to perceive and participate in reality expands to include a dimension that was always there but was not being accessed. You are not becoming something you were not. You are uncovering something you have always been. The fourth-dimensional mind is not an upgrade. It is a remembering. It is the moment the fish becomes aware of the water. Nothing about the fish changes. Nothing about the water changes. But the fish's relationship to its own existence transforms completely because it now knows something about the medium it has been swimming in its entire life. And this knowing, this awareness of the medium, this consciousness of the dimension you have been moving through without recognizing it, this is what changes everything. Not because it gives you magical powers, because it gives you accurate perception. And accurate perception that includes the dimension your previous model was missing, is the most powerful force available to a conscious being. Consider coming back to this video tomorrow morning, before the noise of the day begins, and listening again. Not for new information, but to let the recognition deepen. Each listen recalibrates your receiver a little more. And if someone in your life came to mind while you were listening, someone who is ready for this coordinate on their own world line, share this with them. That act of sharing is not just generosity, it is a four-dimensional event. It creates a resonance between your world line and theirs, amplifying the signal for both of you, accelerating the recognition in ways that ripple forward through both of your trajectories. You were not chosen in the sense that someone picked you from a lineup. You were chosen in the sense that the geometry of your consciousness, the shape of your world line, the trajectory of your awakening, passes through this coordinate. And passing through it means you are ready for what it contains. Not ready in the sense of being perfect or worthy or spiritually advanced. Ready in the sense of being at the right point on the helix. The step beneath your feet is this step, and this step is where the fourth dimension becomes visible. What you do with this visibility is up to you. You can dismiss it and return to the three-dimensional model. Many do. The narrative mind is comfortable, and the fourth-dimensional perception is disorienting at first. the way any expansion of perception is disorienting. The first time you put on glasses, the world looks too sharp, too detailed, almost aggressive in its clarity. You might prefer the blur, but once you have seen clearly, the blur is no longer innocent. It is a choice, and knowing it is a choice changes the nature of the blur forever. You have seen something in this conversation that you cannot unsee. Not because I put it there, because it was already in you, and this was the coordinate where it became visible. The fourth dimensional mind is not something I am giving you. It is something you are recognizing, and recognition, once it occurs, does not reverse. It deepens, it stabilizes. It becomes the ground you stand on rather than the peak you occasionally visit. So here is what I ask of you. Not belief, not agreement, not even understanding in the conventional sense. I ask you to pay attention. Over the next days and weeks, pay attention to the pull. Pay attention to the moments when you know something before you can explain how you know it. Pay attention to the timing of events that your narrative mind wants to call coincidence. Pay attention to the space between a stimulus and your response, because in that space, the fourth dimension is perceptible, not as a concept, as a felt reality, as the direct experience of a consciousness that is not confined to the thin, sequential, three-dimensional slice your culture taught you to call the present. You are more than the present moment. You are the entire worldline. And the worldline is already complete. Your job is not to create it. Your job is to become conscious of it, to feel its shape, to sense its direction, to align your three-dimensional choices with the four-dimensional pattern that your deeper mind has always been able to perceive. If this resonated with something in you that you have been carrying quietly, something you could not name but could not deny, take a moment to acknowledge that resonance. Not to me, to yourself. Because that resonance is the signal. It is the fourth dimensional mind saying, yes, this is real. This is what I have been trying to show you. This is the dimension you have been moving through without knowing it. And if you want to go deeper, if you want to continue this exploration in the company of others who are waking up to the same dimension, stay close to this channel. Subscribe. Leave a comment about what you recognized in yourself while listening. Not what you learned, what you recognized. Because the difference between those two words is the difference between three-dimensional and four-dimensional understanding. Learning adds something from outside. Recognition uncovers something from within. And what you are uncovering is not new. It is ancient. It is yours. It has been waiting for you to arrive at exactly this coordinate. You are here now. The fourth dimensional mind is open. Not because this video opened it, because you were ready, and readiness is a geometry, not a decision. The shape of your consciousness brought you to this point. Trust the shape. Follow the pull. And watch what happens when you stop navigating your life from a single point and start perceiving it from the landscape. The landscape has always been there. You are just now learning to see it, and seeing it changes everything.